fantastic, and what a privilege it is to be here today. I'm going to make an assumption, not just because I've seen David Davis walk past me when I was coming up there, but I'm going to make an assumption that I'm the youngest person who's probably been on stage to speak to you today. And that's something that I reflect upon quite a bit in politics, because by any means, any calculations, I am one of the youngest politicians in a senior role in politics within the United Kingdom. But my journey didn't start when I entered the UK Parliament. My journey in politics started long before then, way back when I was in my early 20s and I finished up at university. I'd studied politics and history undergrad and then a politics postgrad. And I decided to get involved with a political party. And I went out and did leaflets and I stood for a council election and I got absolutely hammered. I think I got about 200 votes and people were telling me to go away from the doorsteps. Then a few years later, in 2015, the SNP did something remarkable in Scottish politics. We won 56 seats out of the 59 Scottish seats at Westminster. And one of the people who got elected then was a councillor in Aberdeen. He was a good friend of mine. And he vacated his council seat. And a lot of folk came and twisted my arm and they said, "Do you want to be a councillor?" And I thought, I'd thought more wisely about it in the years that followed and thought, no. But they twisted it a bit more. And I decided to do it, and I got elected, and I was about 25, 26 when I got elected to Aberdeen City Council. I became the SNP group leader just a couple of months later. And then in 2019, as the SNP group leader in Aberdeen on the council, I stood for Westminster. I won my seat off the Conservatives at the time, an election which of course was very much dominated by Brexit. And when I walked into Parliament, I was, 30, 31? And I was pretty nervous, I'm not going to lie. I'd gone down a few days after everyone else, and you walk in the doors, and I think it was prior to a big debate on Brexit, and I had to go and give my oath of allegiance past the full house. And I was walking in thinking, God, there's Jacob Rees-Mogg, there's David Davis, there's Ian Duncan-Smith, there's the Prime Minister. What am I doing here? It was bizarre. But after a few months of questions, after a little bit longer of getting yourself used to Westminster, I believe that, you know what, yeah, I am young, yeah, I'm from a scheme in Dundee. People like me don't end up in Parliament, but I belong here as much as anyone else. Just because I've not gone to a private school, just because I don't perhaps speak in a certain way, just because I don't perhaps look as young as I perhaps am, I belong here as much as everyone else, and it was very important for me to make sure that my voice was heard, that I was doing my work to represent my constituents. And I take a lot of pride in that. I take a lot of responsibility for the work that I do, and I just hope that I speak up for them in the best way that I possibly can. There's been a lot of interesting things in Scottish politics over the course of the last few years. There's been a lot of stuff over the course of the last year since I became the SNP leader in Westminster, and I'm very much sure that some of you might want to ask me some questions about some of that stuff. So without further ado, I could talk for half an hour, no problem, but let's get into the questions and let's see what you guys want to ask me. Perfect.